Hello everyone, I'm Lucy Fanger, CEO of On Technology Partners, and I'm proud to be sponsoring our new program, Women STaRs. In each episode, we will spotlight an amazing woman and the struggles and triumphs that she has faced. Then we will reflect and share her insights. Our goal is to engage, entertain, and explore the women STaRs in our world today. I hope you enjoy.
I want to thank all of you for listening today. My name is Shanti Harkness, and I'm the Media Manager for On Technology Partners, a woman-owned company addressing cybersecurity and risk. As a woman-owned business for 30 years, we wanted to share the stories of women and the struggles, triumphs, and reflections they face. This is why we started Women STaRs. Today, we'll be talking with Sarah Paasch. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
So before we begin, why don't you tell us something that others may not know about you or something exciting about yourself?
Yeah, so something that people may not know or something that's pretty exciting about me is before becoming a life coach and astrologer living in Southern California, I actually was a full-time pharmacist in Omaha, Nebraska. So I received my my doctorate in pharmacy and practiced in a hospital pharmacy for 2.5 years, I believe, before transitioning out. So pretty big.
That is. That's quite a transition.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what you do now, what it's like, and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. So what I do, I'm a life coach and I'm an astrologer. I've been doing that since 2017, kind of like what I just shared. And let's see, so they're kind of separate, but they're also together. So I work one-on-one with clients. As a life coach, it's really working one-on-one to help people, just giving them that support and guidance to help them just get really clear and how to create a life that is empowered and authentic for them. I really find that most of the clients that come to me are people that are kind of needing to get more clear on how to integrate their values into their life and how to live in a more empowered place. Also, I work with a lot of people who are empathic and highly sensitive. And so also getting them reconnected with their gifts and kind of their superpowers when it comes to their intuition and their emotions. It's just so fun. It's so fun to watch people get into their power and get into this relationship with themselves where that really becomes the focal point of their life. And it's beautiful to watch people grow. And then I also do the astrology. So I have a background combination of archetypal astrology and ancient astrology. And it's a really beautiful marriage of kind of sciences of the astrology. The archetypal astrology is more of kind of like a psychology and depth psychology background. So it's more about the focal point of self-discovery, self-awareness, versus the ancient astrology is really kind of the technical side of the science. So looking at the actual timing and the cycles and the rhythms of the planets and working side by side, it's great because astrology gives you this map of knowing yourself, kind of diving deeper, layer by layer, getting to know yourself and the nuances based off of the time that you were born and the position of the planets in the sky at that time. And then also working with the current transits. So working with the planets and where their movement today and how that's impacting your chart. And we're all evolving and they're all in these perfect times. And when we know what's happening and how our chart's being impacted, then that gives us more co-creative power to participate in a conscious and effective way so that we don't feel like life is happening to us, but it's happening for us and with us. And it becomes more of this really fun dance. Not all transits are fun. Some transits are really difficult, but when we know what that transit is asking from us and we have a sense of the timeline of that, because transits never last forever, that gives us a little bit of, I think, relief, right? And empower to work with that. So some clients, I do just the private one-on-one coaching. We just do really focusing on the mental work and the mental inquiry. Self-compassion is kind of the foundation of that. And then some clients, we bring in the astrology. We kind of do a combination of the two, which is fun.
That does sound interesting. I dabbled a little bit in astrology many, many years ago, and always found it, I don't know if I want to say amusing, but I always found it really how accurate it was, at least in my experience. And just like, how how could somebody even know all of this without even actually knowing me, just because of, where the planets were aligned in the time of my birth and, things of that nature. But it's really fascinating.
Yeah. Like I said, I came from pharmacy. So I come from a really Western healthcare, science background. And so I'm not a typical astrologer in the sense that I haven't always been just infused into that world, or I haven't always had that strong belief in the system. It was actually through a series of unexpected life events where I was drawn to astrology because as like a kind of a last minute thing. Things were happening in my life, my plans were falling apart, and I was doing everything in my human self possible to make things work. I'm a Capricorn, so I love a good plan and I love a good goal and I know how to meet them. I'm super ambitious. But it wasn't working. And it was like my life plans were being ripped out from under me. And I was kind of like, is there a moon or something? Like, what is happening? Is there like a full moon? And sure enough, I researched it and there was an eclipse happening that was impacting my chart in a really big way. And I kind of dove into that rabbit hole and I just found so much relief in the suffering that I was in at that place where I felt so out of control and just, so lost. And astrology really gave me that map, not only for where to go with my life and kind of that direction, but also, like you said, knowing myself, because that's a big part of my journey is coming into that authenticity. It was like astrology was the first kind of safe mirror for me to know myself. It wasn't biased. It was totally neutral. It didn't have a preference for if I was one way or another. And so it was really honest. And I got to learn things about myself that I didn't even let myself know before that, because it wasn't necessarily maybe the ideal version of me for my family or up until that point. So yeah, it's like, that's what I love, giving that gift to other people, because I know that it's been so effective for me. And it's really through my own testing that theory. I was kind of like, this is hocus pocus. And I kind of came into it kind of challenging astrology. I was like, okay, if you're real, prove it, and I started to track my transits and I started to just follow it and educate myself more. And it was just so accurate. And so it was real and it proved itself time and time again. And so that is how I'm a believer, a true believer.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how did you know that you wanted to make that shift in your career from pharmacy to life coach and astrologer?
Yeah. So when I was practicing as a pharmacist, it was actually my third year in pharmacy school that I started yoga teacher training. I did my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And yoga was really my first introduction to any kind of Eastern science modality. And I just felt so at home. Like, that's the best way that I can describe that feeling of finding yoga and doing the teacher training. And that was really kind of like the gateway drug for all of the other things that I do, all of the other healing modalities that I became obsessed with. But from that point forward, and as I began to practice pharmacy, on the outside of my career as a pharmacist, kind of like my hobby world, I was teaching yoga and I was really deeply exploring just as many different healing modalities as I could get my hands on for myself. So in testing all these different healing modalities, I was having significant results. Like, I was reversing diagnosis that I was having difficulty with, long-term chronic ailments that I was seeing doctors for. And I was seeing these things reverse, and I was seeing things change in my life that I was just, it was blowing my mind. And so I continued to develop my skills in those healing modalities with yoga, meditation. I got my Reiki attunement and training. And then just did a lot of training in terms of energy work and understanding that kind of the Ayurveda science of the Eastern health. And it was actually when I was getting prepared to move to California, and I was in the process at the time of transferring my pharmacy license. And transferring your pharmacy license or any kind of doctor license, generally it's not incredibly difficult when it comes to most states. However, California is like one of the 3 that you have to take boards for that state. So I essentially would have had to take my entire boards over. And at that time, I was practicing in an orthopedic surgery hospital, so it was very specialized. So it was a big task. It was going to be a big task to like study for those boards. And I just wasn't loving it. You know, I was like, I love helping people. I loved the company I worked for. I loved the patients that I got to talk to. But I didn't love feeling like where I was in my role was as a healthcare provider was somewhat limiting my ability to actually give people the resources that I knew were working. And so it was in that process, I was visiting California for the first time, and my dad actually at the time unexpectedly passed away while I was visiting California for the first time. And it was with that loss that I really took a step back. And I just, through that grief, got really clear in, you know, what is life? Like, what am I doing? We really only have, like, time is just so precious. Life is just so precious. And I realized that what was driving me to pursue pharmacy was somewhat of an old value system, an old model or fear, you know, feeling like that's what I had to do. And so when my dad passed, it really opened the door for me to see, what do I really want to do? You know? And so I took a risk, and I decided I was going to follow my heart. And I didn't know at the time it was going to be coaching and astrology. I knew these were all the things that I loved. I knew I had all of these tools, all of these resources. I love talking to people. I didn't even know at the time, I don't think, that coaching was a real career option. I just remember journaling, like, these are all the things I would want in an ideal career. And when I discovered coaching along the way, it was like it checked all of the boxes, and I was just blown away. And it really launched from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's wonderful when your chosen career path can check off all of those boxes of what you're looking for. So that's definitely a great thing. Thank you. All right. So we know that triumphs don't come without struggles, right?
Yes.
So if you could share what some of your biggest struggles have been, and this can be professionally or personally, and share how you were able to get through those struggles, how they affected you, and what kind of impact it had on your life or career.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a few things that come to mind. The first one that was, for me, that was really important was developing a relationship with my gifts as an empath, as a highly sensitive individual, as somebody who has a lot of intuitive empathic gifts. But when we don't have the tools or the resources or the understanding about those gifts, it can be a detriment. We can just feel like a sponge. We're absorbing everything around us. It can feel really confusing. And, you know, I had done the route previous to following this path and my passion as a life coach and astrologer. When I pursued my path as a pharmacist, I didn't have to use those gifts. It was very logical. It was very practical. It was very left brain oriented. And so transitioning to a heart-based entrepreneurship and lifestyle required me to develop a relationship with being able to hear my heart and being able to hear that guidance. So that was a major thing for me. So having to just, you know, meditation helped a ton, but really educating myself about all of those things and developing just a real friendship with my emotions and a real respect and that guidance system. And there was definitely a struggle with that. There was, you know, sometimes we take risks and we fall, and sometimes we don't take the risk when we have the hunch, and then we find out later, oh, that, you know, I did know. And so that comes through, I think the quote that's coming to me is, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from poor judgment. And that was definitely true. So there were times where it was really confusing, overwhelming, but I'm so grateful that I took the time to do that. And then the other struggle that was really challenging for me, I think, would be, you know, going against the grain of the value system that I was raised on, really developing a clear sense of what my core values were, and creating a life and a foundation which is built based on that. and having to learn that it's okay and sometimes important to disappoint others when we're developing a more authentic life and a life that is in alignment with our core values. So that was really hard, to do something different. There's, I'm the only person in my family who's moved across the country. I wasn't getting necessarily the support to leave my career as a pharmacist and start over. That's not necessarily what I think a lot of my family members would have done or would have hoped I would have done. So leaving kind of that idea of what I should be doing behind and really following my heart and trusting that even though I had spent so much time and energy and money investing into my career as a pharmacist, that it was okay. And actually it was really important for me to follow my heart.
That's such great points that you make. And I love, how you, I forget exactly how you worded it, but not worrying so much about disappointing others, because we're never going to meet the standards or the ideals of other people. We're always going to be disappointing somebody, by the actions that we take or things that we do. And, that's one of the things that I've learned along the years as well is stop trying to make everybody else happy, because if somebody else is happy with you, that doesn't mean that you're happy with yourself. That doesn't mean that you're content, that you're at peace with where you're at in your life or your career. And that was one of the hardest things for me to learn was to do things for myself rather than for other people. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that that's one of my favorite things in coaching with my clients to get to. Like, I think I get there with every single one of my clients because like you said, it's just, it's so not in our culture to encourage people. I mean, unless you come from somewhere where it is, but from my general experience is most people come from a background where everybody buys into the belief that it's our job to make sure that everyone else is doing good, feels good. And we just place so much pressure on ourselves and so much responsibility. And the problem with those kinds of systems is that when it works, it's great. We feel good about ourselves. We get a sense of validation. We feel connected. We feel important. We feel needed. But when it doesn't work, when we aren't able to imagine we're creating happiness for somebody else, or when it comes back on us and somebody says that we're the reason for them being unhappy, which is the inevitable other side of that coin, then it's really painful. And that's the system that I came from. And so I have a real close connection to that. And I know how much more intimacy is actually created when we're not coming from that place of kind of feeling like we have to live for everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about resenting others.
Right. I have to read this Brene Brown quote, because it's so perfect timing, that I sent to a coaching client last night about boundaries. She says, compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to. And when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. It's like, reorienting what compassion means. And it's good.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment and focus on some of your biggest triumphs. Can you share what those triumphs were and what made them so great for you?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's so interesting because when you think about triumphs in this journey, there are some big ones, but it's really the small ones that really add up, that really matter. Like it's launching the website, like the first time actually launching the website. It's the first podcast that you record. It's the first email newsletter that you record. It's setting up a Calendly, a scheduler. I just want to put that out there first because I think those triumphs were huge when they happen. They were monumental and they can get kind of glossed over. My biggest triumph, I would say, in the past 3 years was definitely hosting a retreat in a foreign country. So I hosted a retreat in Costa Rica, and It was a conscious living immersion retreat, and I was co-hosting it with my partner at the time. We created and marketed and did all of the setup. And then we also created a team of people to come on the retreat and have their own specialty, their own magic medicine. And it was really this family. And then we filled the retreat and got to do, it was a 7-day, I believe, retreat in Costa Rica. So we found a beautiful location, and we all we planned a schedule, and we had different learning modules, different activities, and just creating connection and fun and exploration. And it was, from never creating a retreat, never hosting a retreat, to doing it successfully, filling it, and really curating it in a way that felt so fulfilling. It was just incredible. It was incredible to see that we could do that.
Very exciting. And I love that you mentioned it was in Costa Rica, because I've always wanted to go there.
Oh my gosh, you have
it just looks so beautiful.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, I'd never been to Costa Rica. So it was a huge, like, we're going to do this. And we did it. And it was like, wow. Costa Rica is incredible. I would encourage anybody and everybody to visit. The land is just, it's incredible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips or tricks that you use to help you get through some challenging times or difficult situations? Yeah.
So it's really just like stay basic. It's like my best advice. I love all of the things. Like I mentioned, I love researching, exploring, experimenting with all different kinds of tools and techniques. And I have to be totally honest, the best thing that's helped me is having a solid routine, a really clear sense of what my non-negotiables are when it comes to my routines and my healthcare needs. And also having support. I think that has been absolutely monumental, having my own coach, and then also having my support of my close friends and colleagues who I know that I can talk to, that I can get that feedback, that safe place to go to. And just having somebody else to talk to through those things has been really important. But I would say the routines has been, especially this year in quarantine, this has been a more challenging year, I think, than for everybody. It's really tested our foundations for everybody. And for me, it was, for my mental health, I really had to create more structure in my life, where it was like, this is what we do. This is when we work out. This is when we wake up. And I had resistance to that, but actually it was the most helpful thing I've done by far.
Yeah, that routine is definitely a huge help, and I think is highly beneficial for most people, at least, to have that structure and that consistency, so that the more you do something, the easier it becomes. So if you keep with that schedule and consistency, it's easier. And when we go from having that scheduleness in our life, and then all of a sudden we don't, things can be so chaotic. And it's just like, oh my God, what do I do? And it's just, everything is up in the air, and you're juggling, 15 different things all at the same time. And it's frazzling and frustrating and exhausting. So I love that reminder of, the benefits of having that schedule and that consistency. Definitely a huge help.
Yeah. I mean, even making the subtle adjustment of going to bed earlier and waking up earlier, like changing my sleep schedule, has been hugely supportive. And really, reaching out for support sooner than I think I need it. So similar to the routine, it's like just always having that support call there and scheduled. Even if I don't know what I'm going to talk about with my coach, it's like I show up and something comes through. But yeah, the routines, you can't say enough about them. They're so, and we discount it. It's like meditation, it's like, it can't be that simple. It can't be that easy. We want some exact answer. And it's like,
yeah. No, it is that easy. Yep. It's that simple.
Yeah,
absolutely. So as women, we juggle a multitude of different things. We've got career and family, household responsibilities, sometimes illnesses and caregiving. How do you maintain a work-life balance, and how do you find the support that you need to address those things?
Yeah. So again, the routines is really important. But for me, as a woman, what helps me the most is first getting to know my body's cycles. So really getting in touch and working with my cycles, and then honoring that. So really working with my natural cycles and kind of scheduling the rest around the time when my body needs the rest. And there will be times when I have more energy, based off my body cycle, and working with that in tandem with working with the astrological timing techniques that I use for myself. So working with that as well. And that has been imperative to helping me find a balance that's in alignment with me. It's really authentic and genuine for me. And also helps me stay in balance in terms of kind of that masculine, feminine energy, having the active part of me, taking action, and then knowing when it's time to rest, knowing when it's time to kind of withdraw my energy and go back into a more restorative phase of my cycle. Something else that really helps me is, if I'm feeling overwhelmed in any way, just asking myself, where can I simplify? Like, what is a not important, not urgent thing that I can put down? So I really had to learn that lesson somewhat of the hard way of just picking a smaller amount of projects to focus on. Less is more, and really just seeing them all the way through has been really helpful. I can get really excited, and I can hear the stories of, I don't want to miss an opportunity. Gosh, FOMO as an entrepreneur is like such a thing. So just being mindful of that, and really leaning into the support of the universe and into my faith and my trust there has been really helpful too. It's not that I won't do the other creative projects, but it's really, it's giving the full nurturing and care to what I am working on at the moment.
That's excellent. And I know I'm certain that so many of our listeners can relate to the simplification. Not putting 20 things on your to-do list for the day and then still having 19 of them at the end of the day that haven't been done.
Right.
I am so guilty of that. I have so many things on my to-do list, and I get so frustrated with myself because I can never accomplish them all in a single day. And it's just very defeatist. And, so
totally,
it took me so long to really embrace reality. Like, okay, what can I realistically actually get done in a day? And, maybe it's only 2 or 3 things.
Right.
Well,
I love that.
I feel really good when I'm able to cross off 2 or 3 things.
I love it.
And then I love doing this. If I've done something that isn't on my list, I will write it on my list just so I can cross it off.
Yes.
Because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something, something else. And it's just that little, boost.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that when we feel like we are accomplishing things, we accomplish more. And so it's so perfect that you brought that up, this like setup for ourselves. We totally set ourselves up for disappointment and defeat, and we just put so much on our plate. And so one thing I've gotten really good at is for my goals, I make them more general, and rather than saying, more definitive and of like, I have these different things I'm working on. So really breaking that down and saying, instead of saying, I'm going to get this chunk of my course done. I'm doing a course on astrology right now. Rather than saying I'm going to do this many hours or this much on my course, I just write, make progress on the course. And so it's like, okay, that can look like a lot of different things. It can be like reviewing old notes. It can be like, whatever it is. So I think being on our own team and setting ourselves up for success, because you can't like discount the impact and importance of encouragement versus punishment, or, like fueling ourselves based off of and motivating ourselves based off of, okay, yeah, I'm doing this. This feels good. We're so much more likely to get more done and feel good while we're doing it than if we're setting ourselves up and just feeling like I'm never getting it all done. That's a negative feedback loop, and it drains us.
Thank you so much for all of that. So Sarah, how do you define success for yourself? And do you have any tips or habits that have helped you to be successful?
Yeah, so I love this question because so much of my life now and that transition that I made in my career was a major review and redefinition of what success means. It is so different for me now than what it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But what success means to me now is being truly connected to everything I'm doing in my life. So connected to my work. What do I mean by that? I mean, I feel invested in it. I feel connected to it. I feel like there's a part of me that is in what I'm doing, and that whatever I'm growing, it's also growing me. The people that I work with, I genuinely feel that connection. I genuinely feel like I have the setup so that it can feel intimate and it can feel connected to also my core values and what I love. Everything I do orbits around that connection. And so to me, that's what success means, is being connected to everything I'm doing, and also being able to spend quality time with my creativity and my hobbies and the things that aren't work. That's totally success too, is, having the time to play the keyboard or make the art or write in the journal or spend 2 hours in the morning in my meditation morning practice sometimes. That's success for me.
That's fantastic. 2 hours of meditation in the morning. That is a fantastic way to start the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even, to our listeners, any little bit of meditation in the morning is a great way to start your day. But the more that you can dedicate to that, the better your day will be. And just the more I find for myself, when I start my day with meditation, it's a much more focused, productive day.
Yeah, definitely.
When I start with meditation.
My morning practice isn't necessarily 2 hours of straight meditation. Let me clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quality, intimate, quiet time with myself. And, my different practices that I do. I am really lucky also. I have to give credit. I have an awesome meditation group that I used to practice with when I lived in Omaha. And since Zoom, this year is like the year of Zoom. So 2020 has been like a meditation retreat. We've done 2-hour sits multiple times a week together. And if I didn't have that group support, it would be a lot different. It's a lot easier when we're sitting with a group. So a 2-hour meditation by yourself, I would also give a ton of props to anybody who could do that. I don't know if I
could. That meditation group though, that's a great support system and really helps to keep you dedicated and accountable. And yeah. I think that's something that a lot of us need, is that support and that accountability. Even though it's not, quote unquote work related, it's still for your own health, for your own well-being, which is just as important, if not more important. So that's wonderful that you shared that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't speak enough to the value of having a really healthy support system. Like I can't, it's an absolute gift to have that. I totally agree. And yeah, meditation is a non-negotiable for me, because I just know through my own experience of when I meditate versus when I don't, it's a different life. And it's a non-negotiable. I want the life that meditation gives me. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Sarah, what is the best advice you've ever received?
So I think the best advice I ever received was actually from my dad. And he said something to me when I was in the process of making that decision to transition careers. He said, Sarah, it doesn't matter what you do, just make sure it's worth it. And that was the best advice I've ever had. I still hold that really close to my heart. Yeah, it guides a lot of my decisions. As a really determined and achievement-oriented person, I can spend a lot of my energy, if I'm not mindful of it, achieving something that doesn't necessarily have a deep value or worth to me. And so that's really a big focus of my life now, is anything's possible, but I want to make sure that I really care about it. It's really worth it.
Excellent advice. So go ahead and take a moment and reflect on something that you wish you would have known sooner in life, and share that when you're ready.
So many things. The thing I wish that I wish for all people to know sooner in life is their inherent worth. Learning my basic goodness, learning the concept of what my basic goodness meant, learning the concept of what inherent worth meant. These things completely altered the way that I related to myself and my life and my choices. It made the process of healing and learning and growing a lot easier, because I wasn't beating myself up and judging myself for my humanity. I wasn't identifying with myself as somebody with my errors or with my mistakes, with my lessons. Yeah, I think when we can connect to the truth of who we are, everything changes. And that's what I wish for the whole world.
Excellent. So this might actually roll right into this next question. What advice would you give to young women just beginning their careers?
Yeah, I would definitely say gain the support to do the inner work of your self-worth, of really claiming and understanding where your self-worth comes from, where you might give that away, or what misunderstandings you might be buying into. That is just so important. Another thing I would say is define your lane. Like, what are you doing? Who are you serving? What is your why? And once you have your lane, you have your focus, you have your direction, stay in it. Stay out of comparison, stay out of other people's business, stay out of, those things will distract you. They will pull you down. And it's so important for you to just stay in your lane. You will not be everybody's coach, or whatever it is that you offer. You will not be everybody's thing, right? You're not here for everybody, but there is no one else like you, and no one else has to offer what you have to offer. And so it would be such a disservice if you diluted that in any way to meet the standards of some other expectation or ideal. And then my final thing for young women is to develop a relationship with your body and start to listen to its messages, start to understand and learn how it speaks to you, understand and learn its rhythms and how you can work with that and trust that, because your body, your intuition, they're your superpowers. And being a woman, that is 100% our superpower, our greatest gift. And it's important that we develop that, I think.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Sarah, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Sure. So email, of course, is just my business email, which is growingdeep@sarahpaasch.com. If they wanted to connect with me, also my website, so they can find out more about the services that I offer, the different variations of astrology consultations that I do, read some testimonials. It's just my name.com. So www.sarahpaasch.com. And then I'm always sharing kind of my creative expression of the current transits that are coming through on my Instagram. So if they want to follow that and kind of see how I translate the messages of the planets and their cycles and their rhythms, they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is just @Sarah_Paasch.
And that's for anybody that is listening that is not in front of their device or computer. That's Paasch, Paasch.
Yes, thank you for that, Shanti.
Sarah, it has been an absolute privilege speaking with you. I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you again for taking the time for this interview.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was so fun to be here. You're so easy to talk to. You're so welcoming and fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you. On Technology Partners wants to thank you for joining us on this episode of Women STaRs. If you'd like to nominate a businesswoman to be interviewed for Women STaRs, please email their contact information and a brief reason for nominating them to stars@ontechpartners.com. My name is Shanti Harkness. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on today's journey. Remember, you are all Women STaRs. If you wish to learn more about our Women STaRs program, or want to be a guest on our show, contact us at STaRs@ontechpartners.com. And thank you to On Technology Partners for helping me make this program a reality. Remember, we at On Technology Partners want to help you protect your team from hackers. To learn more about our cybersecurity services, go to ontechnologypartners.com.